All right, quite a night. The breaking news keeps on coming. Here's the headline up tonight on the Indianapolis Star site. Exclusive. As Governor Mike Pence routinely used a private email account for state business and was hacked. Joining us now on the phone, the reporter who broke this, Tony Cook. Tony, give us the nuts and bolts here. Vice President Pence, while governor of Indiana, he used a private email account to do official government business?
That's right. He used a personal AOL account to correspond with his top advisors on issues related to Homeland Security and other sensitive issues.
All right, and you were actually able to obtain some of these emails? Do they contain any sensitive material?
That's right. We obtained about almost 30 emails through a public records request, and the emails themselves that we received don't contain too much in the way of sensitive information, although there are emails where Pence requests updates on investigations, and in one case, his Homeland Security advisor relays an update from the FBI regarding the arrest of several people on federal terror-related charges.
And this was on his private email account?
That's right, an AOL account that cybersecurity experts told us, can be vulnerable to attacks from hackers. In fact, the email was hacked. His email account was hacked by apparently a scammer who, sent an email out to his contacts claiming that Pence was stuck in the Philippines and needed some money wired to him.
Okay, so the account was hacked. What has the vice president said about this?
Well, Pence hasn't spoken about it yet. His office did send us a statement regarding this, and he says that he fully complied with Indiana law regarding these emails and the way that they need to be used and retained. His spokesman also downplayed any comparisons to Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server and email account, saying that any comparisons are absurd.
All right, Tony Cook of the Indianapolis Star, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate your time. Interesting report. We're back now with the panel, and joining us by phone is Brian Fallon, who was the former press secretary for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Brian, your reaction?
Well, it just makes me shake my head. All during the campaign, we were trying to convey that we thought that the discussion and outrage about Hillary Clinton's email use was completely overblown, considering how common the practice was among other government officials. During those months, one of the biggest critics of Hillary Clinton was House Oversight Chairman Jason Chaffetz, and if you ever receive his official taxpayer-funded business card, it actually lists a Gmail address. So we know that members of Congress use personal emails all the time. And in the opening days of the Trump administration, we learned that they are using RNC addresses, which is not technically illegal, but who's to say whether they're doing any government business on that political account. And so to learn that the vice president himself was now using the same practice, it is just another indication of how hypocritical all the attacks were against Hillary Clinton for a year and a half.
All right, Kirsten Powers, there is a difference between a governor and the Secretary of State, correct? I mean, the Secretary of State deals in things that are classified, and I don't want to go relitigate this, but there were emails that were classified. Whether or not they were marked exactly classified in the way that's traditional, that's another thing with Hillary Clinton. But there is a difference, yes?
Well, there's another big difference, which is she had a server that she used, and that was really the much bigger issue other than the email. So this isn't similar in that way. This is a private email. Based on my very quick research here, Indiana law apparently does allow for the public officials to use personal emails as long as they retain the record. So the question is whether or not he retained the record, whereas the federal law, you're not supposed to be using personal email accounts, even though I guess people do it all the time.
The regulations changed over time for the Secretary of State.
So I think there is a difference, and the question is if Governor Pence was retaining the information, but I think the fact that it was hacked shows exactly why you should avoid using personal email, because there, I assume, was sensitive information that was now open to people getting a hold of and putting in the public domain.
Kayleigh McEnany, people are going to look at this and say there is more than a hint of irony in this. I mean, look, Mike Pence, the Trump campaign, just incredibly critical, scathingly critical of Hillary Clinton the whole campaign. And it turns out that he was doing private emails and he got hacked.
Well, they'll be reassured when they see a very different factual scenario here. For one, Kirsten accurately points out Indiana law permits you to use a private email account. Secondly, the outrage with Hillary Clinton was not just the server. It's the fact that she deleted 30,000 emails, the fact that she changed her story 4 times on whether she sent or received classified information. She violated the Federal Records Act in deleting state documents that should have been kept and maintained. So there is not a comparison here. But what I think this story showcases is that this is what the Trump administration is up against. They're up against a hostile press, in many cases, who are going to go to any length to drown his presidency. And the case in point is this article from the Indy Star, which buried 6 lines down, 7 paragraphs down. You find out that this actually isn't a violation of state law at all. So the Trump administration is going to have to learn how to navigate hostile reporters like this Indy Star reporter who puts out a story and 6 paragraphs down basically discredits his own story by saying, oh, this is all kosher.
I don't know if it discredits. News is news. If the guy was using 2 accounts and was sending emails or receiving emails that had to do with Homeland Security and FBI, it's just news, and learning those facts may be important to the voters of Indiana. I'm not sure that makes them a hostile reporter. Paul Begala, to you, I do want to get back to the stories out of the White House today. You've been sort of smirking.
I'm trying to choke down the vomit. I'm sickened. I'm sorry. The hypocrisy is just, it's too spectacular. Irony has just not only died, irony first drank a gallon of antifreeze, climbed to the top of the Washington Monument, and threw herself off. There is no more irony in America. Look, by the way, Hillary's use of a private server, on the day that story broke, I said all government employees should use government email. I still think that's right. It didn't violate any federal laws. Apparently, Governor Pence at the time didn't violate any state laws. But their principal attack on Hillary, the Republicans, was because she'd used a private email. It was certainly not a crime. Even right-wing Republican Jim Comey called a press conference and said no reasonable prosecutor would take this case. So we know she didn't. I trust that Governor Pence didn't. I don't want to hound him for this. But the hypocrisy here is just staggering. And words fail me. So bodily fluids will have to
You called right wing. You called James Comey, I think, right wing federal prosecutor.
And a Republican.
And Republican,
which is very questionable.
And I think a lot of people would see that.
He is a Republican. That's not a dirty word.
It's not right.
I'm just saying there are times when Democrats were praising James Comey during the investigation. I didn't want to let that slide. Brian Fallon,
he was on the Whitewater staff trying to get Hillary back there.
Brian Fallon, if we still have you on the phone, I want to switch gears back to where we started tonight.
Can I just jump in?
Okay, Brian.
For one point, we should not be so quick to say that Governor Pence did not violate any state laws. It is true that the story says that Indiana state law permits use of personal email for work purposes, but the story also indicates that you are required, if you're going to do that, to turn over all your personal emails. And according to the story, the governor did not do that until he left office. And when he did so, it was his own personal attorney that reviewed what to turn over. Those are the exact same circumstances that happened with Hillary Clinton. And everyone said, how can we trust that her lawyers turned everything over? And so those same questions should now be asked about Governor Pence before we deem him as being fully in compliance with Indiana state law.
Did Hillary Clinton break the law? Brian?
No.
Okay, so Brian Fallon, I mean, if Mike Pence did the same thing.
But all I'm saying is let's ask the same follow-up questions about Mike Pence's deletions as we did about Hillary Clinton. All of that stuff was litigated. It turned out that some emails were deleted in real time in Hillary Clinton's case, and that was inappropriate. But it may well be the case that Governor Pence deleted some emails in real time since he'd never turned the personal ones over until the end, according to the story. So let's just ask the same questions of Governor Pence.
We can ask him if he used bleach bit or sledgehammers to bust up his BlackBerries, and I'm pretty sure the answer will be no. That is highly unusual what Secretary Clinton did, particularly with the BleachBit software. So I really think that you're searching.
We don't know.
Reaching.
Let's at least ask.
Let's ask him. I'd happily ask him that. I'm pretty sure the answer is no.
It's also immaterial. It was always a red herring to bring up the fact that she used a personal server. Personal email is personal email. If it's wrong to use personal email for work-related purposes, then it really doesn't matter from a legal standpoint whether it's Gmail, Yahoo, or some domain server that you buy on GoDaddy.com. And so if you want to argue, well, a homebrewed server is less safe, in this case we know that actually Governor Pence's emails were hacked and Hillary Clinton's weren't. So what does that tell you?
Kirsten,
so I think we shouldn't be so quick.
I just have to disagree with that. I think her having a server was actually very significant, and I think that the way that she responded to it and the way the Clinton campaign downplayed it violated, I think had a lot to do with people not having a lot of trust in Hillary Clinton. And so to hear Brian Fallon continue to defend this, where I really think that she was completely out of line in what she did, and the way she responded to it when she was caught. So look, you know, if Mike Pence did the same thing that Hillary Clinton did, he should be held accountable in the same way. There should be exactly the same standard. I completely agree with that. But I don't think. But we shouldn't.
It's not national security.
But we shouldn't downplay what Hillary Clinton did. I think, you know, if he violated a law, if he wasn't retaining records, that is a problem. I mean, you are supposed to retain the records. That's a very serious offense.
All right, guys, we're just learning about this tonight. Obviously, we're going to get more details over the next few minutes, and who knows what else will break over the next few minutes. Up next, a Russian spy